Thank you, Dilip. I hope all of you can hear me well. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank Priya from UK and Arjun from Canada, and of course Ravi from India to be part of this particular session to briefly speak about their intervention after I speak. I'm also going to tell you that Professor Bhagat, who is supposed to part of this particular working group or this paper, as his wife is not well, so they are in the hospital. So I will be taking his 5 minutes to speak a little bit on policy. And this policy brief, what you have, and it is available in the website, everybody can download it. It was published exactly in February 2021, when the COVID was almost in the lowest side. India did not start the second wave. It is almost in that, it's almost back to normal in February in India. So we had the policy brief was published around that time. So I would like to spend my time to give you something on basic facts about migration and then about the policy interventions, what the India is doing and what more we can do that. One is that very, very important is that the database on internal migration is very, very old. I think whenever we talk about evidence-based policy, especially World Bank or the institute where I right now work, we all talk about evidence-based policy, but the evidence is not there. We have the oldest census now is 2011. We have data on migration, and 21 is not conducted because of the COVID-19. So we don't know when they are going to start the survey census. We have no idea. And similarly, the other survey data, we talk about NSSO, which was done in 2007. So it's almost 15-year old. So what we are doing is right now, we are all walking in darkness on the migration numbers. So everybody gives some number based on projection, whatever it is. So according to our number, what we have right now in 2021, India has close to 600 million internal migrants, probably the highest, probably globally, and also probably if you add the 600 million, many countries can be added. 600 million is too big for India to handle. Almost 1 out of 3 people are living in a place they are not born, or living in a place where they were not their last census. I think this is the fair number of data what we have, and out of that, unfortunately, during COVID-1, wave 1, we are not talking about wave 2. I hope that my who are going to comment on that, they will talk about COVID wave 2. So we had close to 200 million people are directly affected by the COVID-19 lockdown. In fact, the Government of India's economic survey, which clearly says, based on their own estimates, saying that interstate are 60 million, inter-district is 80 million. So we have 140 million based on the 2011 census. So you add up now, probably we are talking about 200 million people are moving in. It's a high mobile society within the country. Now, one good thing in India is that there is no legal restriction for people to move. I think that is something very great for us. You can move anywhere in the country, no legal restriction. But unfortunately, we cannot carry certain benefits which you have while you are in one state. When you move to other state, you lose all those benefits. I think that we will come in the second part of my presentation. And when you talk about that migration trends or migration related issues, you have 2-3 things I want to give a small point. One is rural stream is still high with 60% in India. Rural to rural migration, that talks about inter-district. Rural to urban is just 20%. When you talk about urbanization and other things. And then seasonal, temporary, short term, long term, I'm not going to discuss because I think my colleagues will pick it up. But this particular nomad group is talk about internal migration and urbanization. Because everybody, as Dilip rightly said, everybody thinks if you urbanize the place, then definitely you are going to have economic growth without looking at the problem of migrants. For example, India, we talk about smart cities. Smart cities mean what? It is basically accelerating migration to cities. For example, 2011 census says 46% of the people living in cities in India are migrants. 46%. It was in 2011. Maybe now it is almost half of them. So are you integrating them into your policy? I think that is the question we want to debate more on that. Now let me come back to certain policies which you should talk about. I think it will be elaborated by my colleagues also. One is that creating database on migration. I think that is something India has to play a major role. Even NOMAD has to play a major role because we cannot go on talking with the estimate, even guesstimates. I think we should talk about creating a reasonable good database at the state level. I think this is something we should talk about. In fact, I was talking many times about India Migration Survey. We had World Fertility Survey historically. Why can't we think of India Migration Survey? I think migration is currently important, so we should think about that. The second point is the policy is also missing. What we have now in India is only Interstate Migration Act of 1979. Of course, people talk about a new migration policy. Many people have not seen even the draft. So we have to think about how to integrate migration into the policy. Third and the broad area is migration governance in India. Both internal and international, but let us limit to internal. We have to talk about providing healthcare when they move. For example, India is known for RSPY. You can, you are all insured in the villages, but you move to city, you don't get the benefit. Similarly, you have ration card, you have food security. Your children cannot study in the other state because there may be no medium of your things. For example, somebody is moving from West Bengal to Kerala. His children cannot go to the Kerala school because Kerala they will teach either Malayalam medium or English medium. So the children lose their benefits because they cannot speak. So we have to talk about schooling for children. And finally, we should include them in the financial inclusion, financial literacy. And in fact, we have to talk about digital coverage for migrants. Digitally, can you cover them with one small card, maybe Aadhaar? We suggested in our report very clearly. Can you move that if everybody has Aadhaar? Can you link them to all the benefits? I think that is something very, very important, and India is talking about that. And today is an important day for all these people who are attending the seminar. Today, Supreme Court of India has told today, morning's judgment is that all state and union territories, all states should have what is called before July 31st, you should implement one nation, one ration card, which was told by the government of India last year. You have to implement it so that food security is provided to the poor migrant wherever they are. I think it's a very important judgment. It happened today when we are talking. And then must run community kitchens for the poor migrants. They should not run post-pillar. They should get meals, food. I think they talked about based on the experience of Kerala's model of providing food. I think Ravi Raman will pick it up that. And developing a database on informal workers so that many people are not getting benefits. For example, Tamil Nadu government is currently giving 4,000 rupees people who have ration card. But the ration card people who are not from the other state, can they get that 4,000 rupees from Tamil Nadu government? I think these are the questions we have to negotiate. And finally, Supreme Court said all companies and the establishments should be registered properly based on the Interstate Migration Act. I think still they are talking about 1979 Act when we are in 2021. I'm going to stop here and let us see how the reactions coming in. I am very pleased that today, when we are having the workshop, Supreme Court also came to support for the migrant welfare. Thank you, Dilip. Thank you.